Welcome to the Varsity Voices, where high school sports have a voice. I'm Joe Frevaletti. Here with me is my co-host, Dan Frevaletti, and today we are taking a look back at the quarterfinals, another big weekend of Illinois high school football. And we'll break down the storylines, standout performances, and defining moments that help shape the action. And so sit back, turn it up, and let's get into it. And one of the things I was doing was not only reviewing the games, obviously, but I was looking at the number of Chicago Catholic League teams that are still in the playoffs here and vying for a state championship. And from 8A down to 4A, I came up with there's 8 teams left in the Chicago Catholic League out of a possible 20 teams. So about 40% of the teams left in the Chicago Catholic League, and we've been getting some comments.
I was going to say you're just fishing for comments, aren't you?
I am. We've been getting some comments on, hey, they got to change this. Every year, the same thing happens, right? We got to change it, separate the private schools from the public schools, and then maybe play a ultimate championship game at the end. But I'm not sure if I haven't even seen that proposal, right?
No proposal yet. Yeah.
I don't think that's going to be considered, right? Do you?
I don't know. I don't think so. Not this year. I think the proposals are done. I think so. They're not going to have it this year, but in the future, could they do something like that? We've talked about alternatives in the state playoffs. I still like my Elite Eight proposal.
Right.
Can we submit proposals?
I'm not sure. I think it's got to come from a member school. So, we'll give it a try if you want to. Let's give it a try.
Yeah. So, that would be fun. Something like that would be fun. I feel like it would still scratch the itch of that playoff feeling if you had 8 or 12 teams that you could have in an elite division. And that could change every year. It doesn't have to just be private. It can be private and public. But I mean, you would have had Lincoln Way East in that, and didn't seem to look that way.
If you are looking to buy or sell a home, contact RE/MAX Realtor and Circle of Legends recipient Christopher Cobb. Let Chris's extensive negotiating experience work to guide you on all of your real estate buying and selling needs. Contact Christopher now to discuss the right strategy for your personalized real estate buying and selling plan. His number is 630-420-0070, or you can visit his website at christophercobb.com.
Saturday against Mount Carmel.
No. And that's the first game here, Dan, that I took a look at and reviewed. And this was first of all, it was billed as probably the game of the year. Right? Yes. Mount Carmel versus Lincoln Way East, all the talent that was on the field. And in our live prognosticus episode, we had Brendan Bentley on, offensive line coach for Bennett. And he talked about the line play and how that might make a difference in this game. And it really did, Dan. This was a shellacking.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, it was not the game of the century as people build it, right?
Yeah.
Right. And Mount Carmel just came out and exerted their influence and their will on Lincoln Way East. And from the very start of the game to the very end of the game, they had a chokehold on Lincoln Way East and did not let go. And we've talked about Mount Carmel all year, and we've watched them play all year, and we know how talented they are, and we've talked about that. But one of the things that Coach Lynch said after this game was, he didn't feel like they had played a perfect game, and he felt like this was the closest game they came to doing that. And it really showed, because on defense, they just smothered Lincoln Way East and Jonas Williams. I think Jonas Williams only threw for like 116 yards in this game, and the majority of it was at the end of the game. Other than that, the defensive line for Mount Carmel was in his face all day. And Brendan talked about that, about how that might make a difference. And Mount Carmel's offense, they were unstoppable. I mean, it was 42-7 at halftime.
Yeah, there was a running clock in this game.
Running clock, yes. And Mount Carmel got everybody involved. We know the talent they have, but Nathan Samuels, the running back, he had 3 rushing TDs. Emmett Dowling threw for over 315 yards. He threw touchdown passes to Quentin Burrell. He threw touchdown passes to Marshawn Thornton. On defense, you had Roman Igwebigwe, dog, with a couple of sacks. You had, who else? Caleb Tucker, Dean Kemp, Joey Quinn.
Yeah,
all credited with sacks.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just amazing performance. And I think the head coach for Lincoln Way East said at the end of the game, that's an elite team. That's an understatement, right?
What's better than elite?
Right. I mean, they just dominated in this game and exerted their will. And Lincoln Way East had no answers for Mount Carmel. So I do feel like Mount Carmel put it all together in this game. And the other thing I thought, Dan, was that several of these guys that we're talking about on Mount Carmel, they're underclassmen too, right? So these guys are coming back.
Yep.
They lose a couple, but it's really a team that's going to have to be contended with, obviously. But I think I don't think there's any other team in 8A that can, if Mount Carmel plays this way up to their potential and even close to their potential, that there's another 8A team that can compete with them
and stay on the field. Joe, I think coaches would be mad at me for saying this, but it's almost like they are interested, or they felt like, all right, this is going to be a challenge, and they all up their game. And it's because we've kind of felt like they've been a little almost playing to the level of their competition for the past few weeks. And this just looked different. This looked like a star-studded team playing at the highest level.
Yeah. And I feel like maybe they took a little bit of offense to everybody talking about Lincoln Way East and all of that, is how good they are. And this is going to be a game that's really going to be it. And it's like every single one of them, even the coaches, turned it up a notch.
Yeah.
Right. And I said, okay, here's what we're going to do, and we're going to do it. And you're not going to stop us. Go ahead and try, but you're not even going to come close. And that's how this game turned out. Final score was 48-7 in this game.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that?
Yeah, not me. I mean,
me neither.
Looking at my notes, I thought turnovers and special teams might be the difference, but it didn't matter.
No,
it didn't matter. Defense, Mount Carmel's defense and unstoppable offense were the difference in this. Mount Carmel showing up was the difference.
Yes, showing up in a big way, for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So they move on, obviously, Mount Carmel here. And like I said, they've got to be the favorite for 8A. I know a lot of people aren't going to be happy with that, considering, public league versus Catholic league, that kind of thing, or private schools. But you know what? This team plays really good football. And that's fun to watch, in my opinion.
It is. Yeah. It is. Yeah. It's cool to see greatness, kind of be great on the field. I've always liked that too. Yeah.
That's
as much as you like the Cinderella story, it's good to see greatness be great.
Yeah. I love the way you put that, because it is. And we knew they were great, but I'm not sure if we knew that they were this great. And, we've talked about all their players over the course of the year and how talented they are. And boy, did they put it together for this game.
Yeah, they really did. They did. Everyone hit on all cylinders. So
yes. All right. Good. All right. So who do you got, Dan? Who were you looking at over the weekend?
Joe, another great team. Brother Rice knocks off and dominates St. Charles North, 42-18. kind of a similar story. You know, St. Charles North was trying to knock off two Catholic League schools in consecutive weeks, and they would have you know, created a lot of news had they done that. But
had they done that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but the D line for Brother Rice is just dominant. You know, it's funny. It is strange to see stories about teams or watching games and watch a D line dominate to the way that Brother Rice's D line dominates. They make a ton of plays. Like, you can dominate on the D line and you're controlling two guys, and linebackers make a whole bunch of plays. You know, but this is dominant players that make plays from the defensive line position. So Cam McGee, King Liggins, Braden Parks, all getting in on the act, all with sacks. And Cam McGee might have had 3, or Braden Parks had 3. One of them was lights out. Yeah. And their running game, Joe, was just devastating. You know, the O-line and Ethan Posey just opened up holes all day. So Brother Rice had 260 yards total rushing on the day. The trio, and it was a trio combined: CJ Gray, Jalen Green, and someone we haven't talked about a ton. I don't know if he's coming back from injuries. Jamison Davis, AUMT for sure.
All right, okay,
for sure.
Yeah,
and yeah, so it was never really much of a game. You know, it was dominated by Brother Rice, kind of start to finish. Brother Rice is one of those teams, Joe, and gosh, you know, seeing what Mount Carmel did to Lincoln Way East, and I've been kind of putting, you know, a top 5 just in my head together, and thinking about Mount Carmel, Lincoln Way East, East St. Louis, Brother Rice, and Naz being you know, at or near the top of that top 5. And
you gotta be right.
Gotta think Brother Rice is right there. You know, I know Mount Carmel beat them, but and that's how it's, you know, that's how it's measured. But they can line up with anyone, talent for talent. And it showed on Saturday. So St. Charles North just didn't have a lot they could do against Brother Rice at all. They hassled Norwalk, knocked him out of the game, and were just a menace to them all day. So
yeah,
Brother Rice takes this one, Joe, 42-18. They go on to play Downers Grove North, who also has a nice group of big time Power 5 guys on their team. So, including quarterback Owen Lansu. So they are a talented team. They are a team also that kind of is a find a way to win team. You know, whatever it takes. They're grinders in at Downers Grove North. So looking forward to see how that turns out, and doing a little digging on Downers Grove North, see if I can watch them play a little bit and get an idea of what to expect next weekend.
Yeah. So we've talked about this several times over the year, but a grinders team, like you just mentioned, Downers Grove North. I'm not sure how that matches up with Brother Rice team, right?
No, yeah,
right.
Trying to make a case, you know, for
right.
For
I know,
you know, and yeah, because Brother Rice can be described as, you know, you don't describe many defenses as explosive. Brother Rice's defensive line is explosive. It's unreal. Yeah,
unreal.
So yeah,
they're very good. They got to be the favorite, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
You would think, yeah.
Yep.
All right, so let's move to the IC Byron game, Dan. And this game turned out exactly like you and I predicted it would. We did our live episode on Saturday morning, and we talked about all the games where the Chicago Catholic League teams were involved, and this was one of them. And you and I have both seen Byron play, and we know how tough they are and how physical they are and how they just want to dominate you from a standpoint of running the ball, moving it down the field. They will take 3 to 4 yard chunks all the time, and you know, keep your defense out there the whole time. And that's exactly what they did to IC. You know, Byron won this game pretty easily, 28-6. So in addition to what they did on offense, so they had a couple of running backs who we mentioned. You know, Caden Considine had a good game, had a touchdown. Right. Dawson Criddle had 120 rushing yards on just 13 carries. Wow. So even though we know the types of players that IC has on defense, Byron and the way they do things and the way they engineer things for their offense really clicked here against IC, and they kind of had their way with IC, and then even on defense, right? They forced IC into doing some things that they normally did not have to do. They frustrated their offense all game. Nate Lang had a tough day. Everybody on their offense had a tough day for IC. So, Byron, their defense, they held, I think they held IC to under 150 yards throwing the ball, which was really significant considering the way IC has won a lot of their games this year.
Right.
And that's really kind of through execution and through the quarterback, Nate Lang, executing their offense very well. And, Byron just kept them off track all game. So, and that showed, right? Byron did what they do best, and that is march the ball down, big chunks of yards, small chunks of yards, but you never get them off the field, right?
Right.
And, I think they had over or close to 300 yards of total offense, and the majority of that was rushing, which is no surprise.
Do, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Considering Byron. So final score here was Byron 28, IC 6. So IC kind of bows out here, but awesome season for IC considering last year I think they only had 3 or 4 wins and did not get into the playoffs, but they made it to the quarterfinals this year. So kudos to IC, and they've got a lot of underclassmen as well, so they're going to be back too. But they went up against a team that was ready, and I think probably the favorite for the the 3A state title, I would think.
Yeah, it feels like if Byron gets through the Catholic League and they're in their brackets at some point, they've got to face a really good Catholic League team. Right. Then they're going to dominate. Yeah.
Then they're going to dominate for sure. And I think that's going to happen here too. But we'll see as the next couple games play out. But for sure, undefeated Byron team, still undefeated, made a statement here, beating a good Chicago Catholic League team, and I think they're in control of 3A at this point.
All right, Joe. So let's go to one of the better games of the weekend. So, and that's Lake Zurich and Nazareth. So Nazareth with quite a scare, down 21-9 late in that game. So and they end up winning this ball game 24-21. And it took an onside kick after making the score 24-16. Onside kick recovered by Cash Coleman. And it was that old kick it right at a guy in the front line. He's probably a lineman, doesn't catch it, and ricocheted off him.
That's the worst possible thing that can happen, right?
Ricocheted off him, yeah. And
please don't kick it at me. Yeah.
They're all saying that on their front line. Yeah,
for sure.
And some of them are thinking, if they kick it at me, I can get out of the way. But it's like at that
guy
point,
behind me, he's got better hands. He's going to get it. Yeah,
it's like dodgeball at that point, though, right?
Right.
It's old school dodgeball. You take it off the face mask, and you're out. But in this case, Naz recovered it, went down the field and scored. Jackson Fayette to Trenton Walker, who had a big game, big second half in this game. So we haven't said his name a ton as far as for his receiving, this year, but he had a big second half and helped Naz get to that 24-21 victory. So interesting what Naz did. There were a couple coaching moves, Joe, that I thought were pretty interesting for the Catholic League. Tim Rackey, it was an injury because he came back in. At least I don't think so. But he sat Jackson Faya for a series, and I've always thought,
who did he bring in?
I'm not sure who they brought in, but it was just for a series, and I've always thought that doesn't happen enough, especially in high school. Let someone watch the game. Let a quarterback watch the game for a minute, catch his breath, try and slow that heartbeat down a little bit. You do it for other players, try and take them out to get them calmed down. You do it at every other position.
Yeah.
You know, I know quarterback's different. I know it is, but at some point, sometimes it has to be done, I think. And really, really well done, because he came in and he was great after that. Kind of led Naz down the field to those 2 scores. You know, we talked about Lake Zurich being a really good opponent and having some talent and some skill talent. And, you know, the guy we mentioned, Chris Chang, had an explosive play for a touchdown. But you know, Jackson 5 finished 12 of 25 for 150 yards. Trenton Walker had 6 catches for 75, including the game winner, Joe, with just 123 remaining. So it was a nail biter for Nazareth, and a really good game. And it sets up a really cool game next week, a game that we should be all over. So Naz and Fenwick next week, and Fenwick looks like they're hitting their stride. Yeah. I know we'll probably talk about them soon, but this sets up a really good game. They did not play in the regular season, so kind of a natural rivalry, kind of close to one another. I'll have the distance. So
all right, good.
Yeah,
for sure.
And
so people got to tune in for our prognosticus episode next week.
Yeah,
to see how far apart they are. Okay.
Yes, tune in. Perfect. Tune in. Yes. I know they're on the edge of their seat, waiting to know the distance between the 2 high schools. So
yes,
yeah, Joe. But Naz comes back late in the 4th quarter to win this game 24-21.
Okay. All right. So the game I had, Dan, is the 4A game, and it was Montini versus Coal City. And honestly, I thought this game was going to be a little bit closer than this, but Montini, you know, came in undefeated, as we know, and they left undefeated and really dominated this game as well, 35-0 over Coal City. Yeah. Now, the game started out kind of slow. I think the first quarter, I don't think there were either team scored in the first quarter. But then Montini started to kind of figure things out. I think they were up 14-0 at halftime. And then came out in the second half, and you know, whatever they figured out in the first half, they really took advantage of it in the second half, and you know, put up another 21 points. Another 3 touchdowns. So you know, kind of a typical Montini win here. You know, Izzy Abrams had a good game, but they mixed the game up as far as throwing the ball, running the ball. They relied on their 2 running backs, Isaac Alexander and Charles Flowers, Charles Flowers, I think, had a couple of touchdown runs in this game. Also, I think Izzy Alexander hit Damasio Ortegon for a touchdown in this game as well. Santino Tenuta, Dan, the linebacker for Montini on defense, had an outstanding game. You know, not to take anything away from some of the other players, because I think Ben Evenson had an interception. Somebody else had an interception for Montini as well. But Santino Tenuta was all over the field. If we were giving Dog of the Week, you know, awards for the playoffs, our guy Santino would be right up there.
I think. He's sick of hearing that, by the way. He'd like to actually win one.
Gosh, too bad he's a senior, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. We're sorry, Santino. We know you've had a great season.
Yeah. We said several times he had built a house in the dog pound.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he was resident there.
Yeah, but their defense, you know, Montini's offense did exactly what we thought they would do. You know, what was interesting in this game to see or to kind of figure out was what Coal City was going to try and do on offense, because they did rely on the run. Montini shut that down. They, you know, really made the quarterback for Coal City try and throw the ball, you know, and something that they're not real comfortable with doing over the course of the season. Anytime you get to this point in the playoffs or this point in the season, and you're forcing the team to do things they aren't real comfortable in doing, then, you know, I feel like that's a problem. right? And for Coal City, it was.
Yeah.
They just could never get on track on offense, and Montini shut them down eventually on defense, and scored enough with all their stars to come out with 35-0 win. So nice win for Montini here versus Coal City.
Joe, just quick comment on Montini. So I talk about Brother Rice, and this made me think of it. Brother Rice and their defensive linemen making a ton of plays. How about Montini's linebackers? The linebacker group is just outstanding.
They're so good.
Every week, there are tackles for loss. There are double-digit tackles across however many linebackers they play. There's interceptions. They are a force. IHSA is a defensive back, right?
Yeah, but he plays like a linebacker.
I mean,
for
sure,
the
whole team is linebackers.
I knew you were going to bring them up.
Their entire defense is linebackers.
The whole team is linebackers.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Anyway,
he played really well in this game too.
Yeah, they have a really nice defense. So, Joe, we'll move on here. Let's go to another white division school. So St. Lawrence played Dunlap. So and overall it was a tough day for the Peoria area because while Dunlap was only down 7-0 at the half, it was kind of sleepy for St. Lawrence to start. I think it's they kind of, and then Dunlap comes out in the second half and goes on a 75-yard drive to tie it up, and it seemed like it woke St. Lawrence up. Mm-hmm. So it was another huge day for Corey Less. I believe he went over 200 yards rushing. Sean Rice, another guy, I talked about him filling the stat sheet. Yeah. He had a really nice game on defense as well. So good day for St. Lawrence. They take care of business and get to the semifinals, which is just adds to a great year for them. They have really excelled in Coach Swanson's first year. So that they get the victory against Dunlap and are on their way to the semifinals to face East St. Louis.
Yeah. Now, I did not think, and this is nothing against St. Lawrence, because, I know the type of program they have, and, Coach Swanson is outstanding as well. But, honestly, I did not think they would get this far. And for them to be in the semifinals, I think is a huge win for them and their program. And the other thing I like about St. Lawrence this year, Dan, is I feel like it's another team, and I'll probably mention, at least one more of these teams who I feel like has done this over the course of the year, but it's another team that has kind of figured themselves out over the course of the season, right? Yep. I mean, they had a good regular season, but I feel like they made some adjustments. They used a couple of different quarterbacks. Initially, maybe they weren't quite relying on Corey Less as much as they are now. And I think they figured that out too, is to give him the ball as often as we can get him the ball.
Yeah, he doesn't go down. He will not go down.
It's worked out really well for them, right?
Yeah.
To get to the semifinals. So kudos to St. Lawrence, as for how far they've gotten, and they're still going. I mean, they've got a tough draw here in East St. Louis, obviously, right. But who knows? Who knows? I feel like I pick against some of the Chicago Catholic League teams over the last couple of weeks as we get here, and I get bitten by it because
strength of schedule is a thing,
It is.
So that's, these guys are used to it, so that it won't be a huge surprise. Well, I shouldn't say that. East St. Louis reminds me of Brother Rice a little bit in that they're loaded up front. They're gigantic size-wise on the offensive and defensive line.
Yeah.
But the skill is at a level that St. Lawrence has probably seen once or twice. I can't think of their schedule on off the top of my head. I think they may have played Brother Rice, but so it won't be that unusual for them.
No, I don't think so either. So that's going to be a really good game to watch. Sure.
It'll be interesting. Without a doubt.
Yeah, and by the way, I have to say I picked against St. Lawrence in this game, and it came back to bite me.
Yeah, well, I picked against Fenwick, and that
Right.
bit me for
That's
sure.
the only reason I said that, because the next game is coming up here, Dan, is Fenwick and Burlington
Yes.
Central.
Yeah.
Right. And really, I mean, we thought, and we talked about in our prognosticus episode, that this was probably going to be a tightly contested matchup between these two teams. I mean, Burlington Central, size-wise, physicality-wise, thought right there with Fenwick, but it really did not turn out that way.
No.
Fenwick wins this game 49-21. I'm not going to say it was the Jake Thies show, because I know it was a team performance, but he ran for over 210 yards in this game, and I think 3 or 4 touchdowns, Dan. And this game in the first quarter, really the first half, was still kind of close, and Fenwick just came out in the second half. I felt like they figured something out. It's like, oh, you know what we need to do? We need to give the ball to Jake Thies.
Yeah.
And we need to let him run, because we see something here where they can't stop him, and they could not stop him. Jamin Williams had a good game too.
Really
good.
Yeah,
they did mix in the pass as well, and he had a couple of touchdown passes. But you've got to say that Jake Thies, if he had not announced himself as having arrived, this was a game where he did that. For sure. And, it really was a dominant performance by, even though the score, what did I say, was 49-21. I think Burlington Central, they scored a touchdown at the end of the game here. So it was even more dominant than maybe that score sounds. But the one thing I wanted to tell you, Dan, is there's another name here, and I don't know if maybe you've mentioned this already, but for our Varsity Voices all name team,
the
senior defensive lineman for Fenwick. Are you ready for the name?
I'm ready. Yeah, bring it on.
Zakomo Mbewe.
Oh, that is a good one.
He had 4.5 tackles, a sack. Was a menace, as you like, the word that you like to use, right?
Yeah. Yes.
The whole game. Right. And he was in Burlington Central's face, constantly in this game. So remember that name, write it down, Dan. Zakomo Mbewe.
Got it.
All right, there we go.
Up here. Yeah, you know what, Joe? I have one comment on Fenwick. Something I think they do better than anyone. I don't know if it's coached or not, but they are, Jake Thies can hit a hole fast, right? And I saw him explode through a hole for like a 65-yard touchdown. But they also, from Jamin Williams to Jake Thies to Tommy Thies, when he carries the ball, to their receivers, when they catch the ball right field, they are so patient, and they are so good at setting up blocks. Just they can weave their way through, when it looks like they're stopped, they gain like 6 or 7 yards. And, it is, they have a knack for being patient when they need to be and explosive when they have to be. So it's something that when you watch, you see their team. Jamin Williams is great at it, because sometimes he'll look like he stopped for no games, and he literally can come to a stop 3 times during a run, and kind of falls his way forward for 6, 7, 8, 9 yards.
Yeah, so obviously that says something about their talent, right? Because they have a lot of talent. But I also feel like a point like that you just made, Dan, says something about their coaching as well. And they're so well coached too. We've talked with Coach Battaglia, and he's an outstanding coach, and his staff is outstanding as well. But when I hear somebody make a point like that, like you, who's been a coach, at the high school level, that tells me something about the coaching they get as well, because
it's good.
It's very good. Very good. Okay.
All right. So back to the CCL dominating Peoria this weekend. So Providence takes down Washington, Joe, 38-6. And, like some of the other CCL teams, they seemed a little sluggish at the start. I don't know if I don't know if it was a Saturday early afternoon start, that maybe some of these teams aren't used to. I don't know. I hate to make too much of that, but Broden Mackert scored to take a 7-6 lead after a turnover, had put Washington up 6-0.
Yeah.
Providence leaned on defense and special teams, to keep them in the game the first half. Washington had chances to take the lead and extend it, but Providence recovered a fumble, and then on a separate drive, Providence blocked a field goal late in the first half. So they had, Washington did have opportunities, but when you give a team like Providence too many opportunities and you don't put points on the board, you've got problems. And Providence got a really good day from Dom Vita, good passing day, which I know they like to see. I know that has been something that's been developing over the course of the year. And I've talked about their rush game, and it was still outstanding, but they have developed a passing game. And you know what is more evidence of that, Joe, that there's that development? Who is the receiver we typically think about when we talk about Providence? Can you think?
Xavier Coleman.
All right. Right. Yeah. Me too. So the name jumps right up to you. So yesterday, Dom Vita's favorite receiver, Curtis Stubbs. He had a touchdown. AUMT. He's a junior. Yes. We may have seen him on the field in one of our last games as a coach.
Oh, I thought you were talking about when we were coaching.
Curtis Stubbs had a TD and six receptions, and Xavier Coleman did have a touchdown, so he wasn't left out in the cold. Broden Mackert had a big day as usual. And Providence took control of this game in the third quarter. Washington never scored again, so Providence kind of exerted their will on the line of scrimmage and wins this game 38-6.
You mentioned a key word there for me, because I watched a bit of this Providence this game, Dan, and you mentioned development, and I feel like they are still developing. As they go into the playoffs, I feel like they still haven't quite completely hit their stride, because, they were, like you mentioned, they were getting the ball to a receiver, Curtis Stubbs, who we haven't really talked about all that much. I didn't see Broden Mackert get the ball in the first quarter all that much. They were relying on one of their other running backs. I'm trying to think of his last name, if it was McKee or McKay, something like that. Yeah. And I was wondering why are they doing that? Why are they not giving it to Broden Mackert? But, over the course of the game, I saw, I feel like they are still figuring out who they've got and the talent that they've got on the field and how they're going to use them, right? And eventually they kind of got back to, what they do best. But, I really kind of like that from a coaching aspect, as far as how they kind of work this game, how they kind of controlled this game. And obviously they win the game and win it pretty easily by the end. But I was a little worried initially watching it that, Washington looked really good to me, right? And they were moving the ball in that. But I think Providence, they're still kind of in this development mode, and they're working with all the talent that they have on the field and figuring out who they've got and what they can do.
Yeah, well, it's, if you can develop your way to the semifinals, that's pretty nice, right?
It is. It is very good. Yeah.
Joe, and I didn't write down do you know who Providence plays in the semis? I could probably see it right here real quick.
Oh, gosh, you're really going to tax me, aren't you?
I'm going to figure it out super fast here.
All right. So Providence is what? They are 6A?
Providence is
5A?
5A.
5A. All right. So they are 5A, and I believe that
Oak Forest. Oak Forest, yeah.
Oak Forest, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I actually looked at it on a map, but it's not that close, like 20 miles. So
you'll know exactly in our episode later this week, right?
I'm concerned about those bus rides. Yeah. But on Saturdays now, it's not a big deal. Not a big deal. So,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I used to, real quick side note, I hated as a coach when we when we would go to like Carmel or Marian Catholic, and guys would be like so asleep, like it's the middle of the night. Like I've never slept in my life. That's how guys would be sleeping on the plane.
Right.
Like 25 guys, you're like, you've got to play a football game in 2 hours, and you are sound asleep.
Yeah.
It's like what I used to do when the kids were babies. You put them in the car and they'd sleep finally, and they'd really sleep. That's how these kids are sleeping on the bus. So it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
So that's
come on, get
bus
up,
rides.
get up, give them a snack.
Everybody, turn some music on. Somebody do something.
That's funny. All right. So let's go to the St. Rita versus Hersey game, Dan. And I'm going to admit right up front that I picked Hersey over Rita. You did not. You picked Rita over Hersey.
It surprised me. Your pick surprised me. But anyway,
and as I watched a little bit of this game, I thought, I don't know how I picked against St. Rita, but how I did pick against them is I did not think that they were going to have as many big plays throwing the ball down the field that they had in this game. We haven't quite seen that from St. Rita over the course of the season. Maybe the last game or two, but this game, they were they were outstanding on offense. Defense, maybe not so much, but Hersey was a really good offensive team.
Oh, they're awesome. They're awesome offensively.
So good.
It doesn't surprise me.
So neither defense could stop the other the other offense. And I talked about Stephen Armbruster, the quarterback for St. Rita, in our Saturday morning prognosticus episode, that he hadn't done quite the things that he had done the year before. And I don't know. I don't know if he listened and said, you know what, I'm going to show this guy what I can do, because
is your cell phone ringing? He's on. Yes, it. Wants to be on the show.
He was outstanding. And their running game was really good too. I got to give them a lot of credit. Their offense, especially in the way that they handled this game, because they were really well balanced. But the thing that surprised me the most was the number of big or chunk plays that they had, both running and throwing the ball. St. Rita looked really good. I did not think they were going to get to the semifinals in the playoffs, but it's another team that strength of schedule. I know we're going to talk about that, and we'll probably keep talking about it as we go forward. But they took on a Hersey team that was, I thought, primed for going further in the playoffs. And St. Rita said, maybe we can't stop you on offense, but we're going to outscore you. And they did, and it was the thing, Joe. Really an exciting game to watch.
Yeah. I did not. What was the final of this game?
56-42.
All right. So I don't think any of us saw that coming.
No, but those 42 points for Hersey, that's a lot of points, right? But they scored 2 touchdowns within the last 6 minutes of the game. So it was like 56-21 or something like that. And St. Rita was just kind of playing prevent at that point, so it was really kind of a dominant performance by Rita.
Yeah, we just haven't seen this from St. Rita. This explosive offense. And, in our preview, we talked about Armbruster and Walter Jones. That combo being back seems to, they got one spark from Brandon, the running back.
Brandon Johnson,
yes, the mayor. About halfway through the year that started their run.
That's an awesome name for him. We've got to let him know that. I think you need to contact him, Dan, and say, this is what we're calling you, the mayor.
He may say thanks, but no thanks.
Thanks, but no thanks. Okay, go ahead.
So the other thing is, now Walter Jones is back and seems to be 100%. It's like added another. So, they have, you talk about developing during the playoffs. It feels like St. Rita's found this gear in the last, 3 or 4 games, including the last couple of games of the regular season where they didn't, I don't think they knew they had this gear.
Right.
And so that can be big going into the semifinals. because they've got Batavia, traditionally really tough. I feel like these two teams play every year at some point, or Batavia always seems to have to get their
Batavia's always here in the
always.
semifinals, quarterfinals, semifinals. They're always there, right?
Yeah. They're as good as any of these. They could certainly hold their own in the Catholic League on a regular basis. They're one of a big group of teams that could do that. So
yeah.
All right, Joe. Well, let's see. The last game I have.
Okay. You got another one?
Oh, yes. St. Francis over King.
Right. Okay.
Yes, in kind of an easy fashion. So I think we had a good day on our preview show because we kind of called some of these things.
Yes. Pretty good day. I mean, I picked Lawrence wrong and Rita wrong. You picked Fenwick wrong. Maybe that was the only one.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I kind of felt like,
but still,
like Francis would have an easy victory this week, which is what it turned out. I think they rested a lot of starters in the second half.
Yeah.
But they've had a tough first 2 weeks of the playoffs.
They have.
But they beat King 44-14. They had, and it was, when you play a talented team and you focus on defense and special teams and you focus, this was the other game that I thought was really, really well coached because they practiced getting turnovers. They practiced the Peanut Tillman punch, to shake the ball loose, and they got 4 turnovers. They got they kicked 2 pooch style kickoffs, recovered both of those. I don't know if King has seen that this year. They blocked a punt for a touchdown. My guy Tanner Glock had a fumble return and also a receiving touchdown.
Yeah.
So St. Francis, like I said, rested several starters in the second half, and it's a great thing to be able to do in the quarterfinals. But now they've got to tighten their chin strap because Belvedere North is next, and they beat a Lake Zurich team pretty easy.
They beat
Cary Grove. Yeah, Cary Grove pretty easy.
Yes.
And so I'm guessing that's going to be quite a challenge for St. Francis, but they had a great game. They kind of did what they wanted to do. We're up big at halftime, like I said. We're able to kind of cruise to a 44-14 victory.
Yeah, and good for them. But they do have that would have set off alarm bells for me as a coach, Dan. How Belvedere North that handled Cary Grove. Yeah. We saw Cary Grove the week before take care of who?
St. Pat's?
Yeah, maybe St. Pat's. Yeah. But, pretty easily. So that's going to be a really good game. Really good game. Yeah.
And I always take into account when we talk about these teams that are run, and I think Belvedere North is a run, option team. And they do better against each other, because they're able to practice against it all year long. Because so many of the schools west of 39, like I said, will do that. That run that's the west of 39 and north of 90.
I think you have to name the offense that. It's how they had the West Coast offense. You should name that west of 39 offense.
Yes.
What do you think?
We gotta tighten it up a little bit, but yes, because we're gonna go away from the wing T because a lot of it's funny you say that because a lot of them don't do the wing T. It's kind of the basis, but they now will incorporate different looks and formations just like spread offenses do. But still, it's still the same thing. So yes, we do. We have to come up with that, even though I had nothing to do with any of it. If I can,
that's all right. You can still claim ownership of the name, right? If you come up with a good one.
9. Yeah, West 39, something like that.
It's got to be a good one. It's got to be a good name in order.
We'll come up with something. And it can't just be an acronym either. That's our go-to.
That's easy. I like acronyms.
That's our go-to.
Okay.
All right.
So that's going to do it for this edition of the Varsity Voices. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us and breaking down the latest playoff action, highlighting some of the great performances and shining a spotlight on the athletes and programs that make high school sports and the Chicago Catholic League so special. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you follow, subscribe, and stay connected with us across all platforms, YouTube, TikTok, X, Instagram, so you never miss an episode, a breakdown, or a big moment. I'm Joe Frevaletti here with Dan Frevaletti. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, this is the Varsity Voices, where high school sports have a voice. And we'll see you next time under the Friday Night Lights.